Great. So what is nuclear medicine? Is it a new wave rock band, functional imaging using radioactive tracers, a study of electrons and neutrons of the solar system, or a new imaging modality? So just to learn more about nuclear medicine, we're going to watch a video.
I don't think of it as a job. I don't have to dread going to work in the morning. It's a wonderful feeling to get up and love what you do. Quality control is of utmost importance with nuclear medicine. So tracers that we prepare for our patients will make or break their diagnoses, and the highest quality is necessary to get the best images for these patients. What I love about nuclear medicine is how it blends both science and people skills. So I get to work in a lab and use really fancy high-tech equipment, but I also get to work with patients and make a difference, hopefully, in their lives. And it's a great balance to have a blend of both worlds.
All right, everyone take a look at this heart model here.
So the BCIT nuclear medicine program is the only nuclear medicine training program in British Columbia. Our students are taught through a combination of in-class learning, simulated lab activities, and hands-on clinical practice. The biggest advantage of students working in the clinical setting is that they are allowed to take the knowledge that they gained and apply it to real-life practice and develop competency in the skills that they need to do the profession.
The instructors at BCIT, they know exactly what's expected of a graduate technologist, so I feel that they know exactly how to prepare us to be working in the field when we graduate.
Usually by the end of the test, I can take the most fearful patient and make them feel like they've had a really good time with us here in nuclear medicine. Sometimes you can really get to know patients and you feel like you're really making a difference in their lives. That's really rewarding.
Wow, I always get chills every time I watch that video. It inspires me to become a nuclear medicine technologist. So nuclear medicine uses biological tracers combined with radioactive material to produce images that help diagnose and manage the disease. And like my poll said, which you all got right most of it, is that nuclear medicine is also known as functional imaging. And so what exactly do we mean by that? Well, on the screen I have a picture of a patient's bone scan. And so how we get those images is, as you know, bones are normally turning over, rebuilding themselves, taking up calcium phosphate as normal function. So a technologist will inject a patient with a radioactive tracer attached to a phosphate molecule and inject the patient with it. And the phosphate and the trace will travel in the blood and go to the bones and allows it with their special camera called a gamma camera, detect the radiation within the patient and form images such as these. Next slide, please, Erin. Okay, so what are some fun facts about nuclear medicine? First of all, it's not 24/7, meaning nuclear medicine departments aren't open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In fact, most nuclear medicine departments are only open Monday to Friday from early morning to early evening. In fact, we like to brag that we have banker's hours. We're both diagnostic and therapeutic. So not only does we able to diagnose diseases, but in some cases we treat diseases such as some cancers. Incorporates all the sciences. So if you have a passion for sciences, then nuclear medicine is for you. We incorporate chemistry, physics, math, and anatomy and physiology. Direct patient care. So as Heather said in her video, that the best part of the job is the patient, and that is so true. Most of our tests take between an hour and 4 hours long, so we have a really chance to get to know our patients, talk to our patients, and make a difference in their lives. Public hospitals. There is no private nuclear medicine clinics in BC. All nuclear medicine technologists work in a public hospital belonging to a union where there's great wages and benefits. Hybrid imaging. What's that? Well, over the last several years, nuclear medicine has become hybrid imaging, meaning that our gamma camera has attached to it a CT scanner. So not only do we have the functional images from the gamma camera, but we have the high resolution anatomical images of CT and the images are fused together. And this allows the doctor to be able to see exactly where the disease is in the body. Next slide, please. Thanks, Erin. Okay, this is a picture of our functioning gamma camera in our lab at BCIT. So students will do labs learning how to use this gamma camera before they actually go out into the clinical sites. Next slide, please. So our program is continuous 24 months. And what does that mean? Well, there's no summer off. So students will start 1 September. For instance, last September, our students started in 2020, and they will graduate end of August 2022. We accept 16 students every year. And year one at BCIT, students are learning and applying foundational knowledge and theory. And summer one, the first clinical experience. And year two is unique for our program in that the students will alternate 2 weeks at BCIT, 2 weeks at clinical site. And the students love this because they will take the theory and knowledge of learning at school and able to apply it immediately, directly in the clinical setting. And then the last summer is also clinical experience in the program. Next slide, please. Clinical practicum. I'll let you in on a little secret. This is where the real learning happens. Our students spend a total of 40 weeks in clinical experience over the 2 years in our program. There's 11 clinical sites throughout the Lower Mainland and Vancouver Island, and each student will work at least 4 clinical sites in their 2 years. Next slide, please. Job opportunities. So upon graduating, our students have the opportunity to write a national certification exam, which when they pass, they're able to work any province across Canada. If they choose to stay in BC, most of our graduates will work on call or a casual technologist for a couple of years before they secure a permanent part-time or full-time position. Next slide, please. So most of our graduates will work in nuclear medicine for many years, but some graduates go on to become take other opportunities. Like myself, I became an educator after working 20 years in nuclear medicine as a technologist. A couple of years ago, we had a graduate become a radiation safety officer at one of the local universities. And then a number of our graduates have gone on to work for the commercial vendors, the one that sells the specialized gamma camera equipment. They either become salespeople where they sell the equipment, or become clinical application specialists where they actually go into the hospital and train the technologists on this new software and equipment. And then a few of them have actually gone and got their master's degree in health and healthcare leadership and become medical imaging directors in the health authorities. Next slide, please. This is a picture of our second-year students last fall, safely working with COVID safety guidelines in the lab. And then a second-year student, Eileen Tang, has written that my passion for patient care and physiology led me to nuclear medicine. This program has provided me with hands-on learning experience in various hospitals, endless support from my instructors and classmates, and even the opportunity to complete my first summer clinical placement in Victoria. It has not only challenged my personal skills in critical thinking and problem solving, but has also improved my interpersonal skills as a member of the healthcare team. Okay, that's the end of my presentation. I want to thank you so much for listening. And now I want to welcome Jesse Taylor from Program Advising.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me. So I want to talk to you guys a bit about pursuit of this program. And I'll mention quickly that I'm simply one of many general program advisors that work assisting students with full-time program inquiries. And we're going to try to do our best to try and point you in the right direction, make sure you're aware of how to upgrade your coursework if it requires upgrading, direct you towards equivalencies, as well as talk to you about strategies for acceptance into competitive programs such as this one. We'll go on to the next slide there. So with respect to entrance requirements, academically, we do want to make sure that you've reviewed the details that are outlined on the program page in full. So there you'll find specifics addressing the academic requirements. This program is generally looking for a B level or 73% minimum in order to prove the academic requirements as they're outlined. And so it's primarily grade 12 subject matter or equivalent. So you've got English 12, pre-calculus 12, biology or anatomy and physiology 12, as well as chemistry 12, and then physics 11, I believe is the only one that's not at a grade 12 level. And so to make sure that you've looked at the full information on the program page, don't skip over. There's a really important link just below the requirements that says read more about how to meet BCIT's entrance requirements. And within there, they have details such as equivalency, as well as upgrading, assessment testing, use of midterm grades, a lot of important details that get missed oftentimes when people don't click on that link. But more specifically, when you're looking at becoming a successful applicant to entry into the nuclear medicine program, we want to make sure that you do have a strong academic history. So that could be a combination of high school academics, as well as university or college studies. So the total that you've accomplished within college or university, as well as the GPA that you've accomplished, even potentially beyond just the basic academics that we're asking you to prove. As well, we want to make sure that you have relevant volunteer and or work experience. Work experience tends to be the primary one that the department's looking for, and where possible, if you've had some experience in healthcare, that's great. Otherwise, they'll look if you've had a chance to have volunteer experience that is specific to the healthcare field. Maybe you've been working at a long-term healthcare facility with the elderly, or something to that effect. And then they'll look at other work experience and or volunteer experience as well as a factor. And then last but not least, knowledge of the profession. It's important when you're looking at any competitive program to consider all the aspects of the profession to make sure that you know what you're getting into as you consider applying to a program such as this. So I encourage you to look into as much detail as possible, that especially what's outlined on the program page, but also you can go beyond that, look at YouTube videos that would be specific to this field. That can always be helpful. And then we'll go on to the next set of details. So talking about start dates for this program commences once a year in September, as Debbie mentioned, and it does have an outlined application period that you can see on the slide here, as well as it's mentioned on the program page. So make sure that you're starting to apply early where possible, October 1st of the previous year, but applications are accepted up until April 30th of the year of the program. And when we're looking at qualities to be successful within the program or this profession in general, oftentimes this is similar to a lot of other programs, but strong communication skills is very important. Making sure that you have the ability to communicate with your teammates, because oftentimes you will work in a team setting, but also they can work independently as an individual. So those are definitely very important for this program and for many programs at BCIT. As well, that you have excellent physical and mental health. The rigor of BCIT and the course load can often be somewhat daunting. So we want to make sure that you are at the peak of your state to pursue those studies and be successful, as well as making sure you have stress and time management skill sets in place. Anyone pursuing BCIT, this is a helpful skill set to have because, again, that course load that's associated with the program does need to be managed well. And then as you're looking at the program, you want to make sure that you have strong decision-making skills and problem-solving skills. Again, this plays into part when you're working in a team. You want to make sure that you have fully read all the material that's necessary. You feel confident about the specifics, and you're ready to proceed with that. And that can also apply to the clinical setting as well. And then computer literacy, 3D visualization, manual dexterity, eye-hand coordination skills, also very key to this particular area, especially, as I mentioned before, as you move from the classroom setting into that clinical setting, you want to make sure that you have all those aspects and you feel confident about them. And let's go on to talk about the application process. So through the online application process, we want to make sure, again, that you review the full set of entrance requirements and application processing dates on the program page. Make sure that you proceed with upgrading where necessary, and that you've collected all the documentation that you need, getting those transcripts and additional documents, making sure that they're in a PDF format so that you can upload them when you get to that step in the online application process. And as well, completing the mandatory applicant questionnaire, which will also need to be uploaded. And you'd proceed as well with arranging a CASPER examination date or a test date. And so this is an external organization to BCIT. So it's important to go through the link on the program page to connect with them, complete the practice tests that they have available, and then make sure that you have a test date that's arranged that applies to the application period at BCIT. And then on the homepage at bcit.ca, there's a link that says apply to a full-time program. You can also go directly to bcit.ca/apply to do so. Once you've submitted your application, the department will review all of the applicants that have applied, that have been directed to them by the admissions department, that made sure that they've proven all the basic requirements. The department will complete that review. They'll shortlist the stronger applicants, and they'll invite them to attend the interview process through the multi-mini interviews. And once the interview state has taken place and the department has had a chance to look at those details, then they'll make their final decision as to who they're selecting and offering acceptance to the program. This process can take anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks after the application deadline, so we greatly appreciate your patience as the department goes through that process. And good luck to everyone that decides to apply. And let's go on to the next slide. And so we'll talk about laddering opportunities. For those of you that do get accepted to this program and are successfully complete the program to get involved in the field of nuclear medicine, there are other opportunities that you can consider after you've completed your studies for the diploma portion. So there is the magnetic resonance imaging advanced certificate program, as well as the Bachelor of Health Science internally within BCIT. You can also consider externally with Thompson Rivers University, the Bachelor of Health Science. So that's a great opportunity to achieve that bachelor's level and have a combination of credentials, one from BCIT and one from an external organization. As well, you can look at the Health Leadership Advanced Certificate Program. This is a great program that's offered online, and it does align you with the opportunities that you may be able to pursue once you've had a bit of experience in the field, to look at those leadership roles that might be available within the health authority or otherwise. And then, of course, there's also the Bachelor of Technology and Technology Management, which is more accessible to a larger group of graduates from the diploma programs at BCIT. So you may get mixed in and cross over with some other graduates that'll help you expand upon your experience as you look at that program as well. Let's go on to the next slide. So let's talk about student services. So some of the student services that are available within BCIT, especially during COVID, they've had to provide services in different ways. So virtual obviously is one of those things, and we want to make sure that you're successful in your studies at BCIT. So there's been an implementation of this 8 dimensions model. So it looks at aspects such as intellectual, occupational, physical, financial, psychological, environmental, spiritual, and social, as you can see in the slide here. If you do want to learn more about the steps that have been taken to support you as students in this area, I'd encourage you to visit bcit.ca/student services. And we'll go on to talk about some of the specific departments that are available to support you as you become a student at BCIT. So Indigenous Initiatives, I believe, is the newer title of that department. They're obviously there to support those of Indigenous background. As you look at funding for some of the programming you might pursue at BCIT, such as nuclear medicine, you could look at what student loans are available, bursaries, and otherwise. As well, accessibility services for those who might have a disability. They have different services that are available, such as extra time to do testing, perhaps, and it might be in its own your own room, so that you're separate from the larger group, so you can concentrate more. So that's just one example of the support services from accessibility. Student health services, counseling and student development, and rec services have all definitely gone through to offer more of a virtual setting to be able to connect with those departments and be provided support from each of them. So I definitely encourage you to take a look at the different aspects that are on the website, specific to these departments, and then you can reach out to them where need be to connect with them to find out how they can support you. Let's go on to talk about program advising. So connecting with program advising, you can do in a few different ways. So you can call us during the week. The main number at 604-434-1610 is listed here. So you just call through that number. You'll have to get redirected from the frontline office to us, but you can call anytime in the mornings, Mondays and Fridays from 10 a.m. till noon, or Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursday afternoons from 1 till 3:30. As well, you can email your inquiry in, and so we'll respond to you by email. You can also request to connect with us for a virtual appointment so that we're meeting with you one-on-one through a virtual Zoom meeting. And the email address to reach us is listed at the bottom there, program_advising@bcit.ca, as well as our website on the right-hand side, highlighted in yellow, so bcit.ca/advising. Sometimes it can be helpful to take a look there just in case we change our service periods. Sometimes we do over the summer months, so that's important to take a look there as well. Hopefully we'll connect with you further, and we'll go on to talk about social media, I believe is the next slide. Yes. So there's a number of different ways that you can connect with BCIT in general. I definitely encourage people, aside from information sessions such as this one today, to look at videos that we have posted on YouTube. They can be greatly helpful. You can see videos that are from students either involved in the program or that have graduated. Can be very helpful. There's obviously important posts that go onto Instagram that help to keep you up to date on things. And you can look into Facebook as well to make further inquiries. We don't have the tours taking place presently, I don't believe, or the spend a day. However, we hope to get back to those once more things are resolved with COVID-19. And I think with that, we are on to the question and answer period. Yes, indeed. There we go. So I don't know if Erin was going to pull any from the chat there.
Yeah, thank you, Jesse, for that. Really appreciate that. Was a lot of information and it came pretty quickly at us. So I am assuming that some people will have some questions. Julie, did you want to moderate the chat here?
Yeah, let's go to, I see a few that Debbie and Jesse responded to, but there's one from Farhan. He asked, how is nuclear medicine and development of specimen therapeutics as well, as mentioned by Debbie? An example would help. So how is nuclear medicine a development of specimen therapeutic? Debbie, do you understand that question or do you need some clarity?
Maybe I can answer it. I'm not too familiar with the term specimen therapeutic, but we definitely have up and coming branch in nuclear medicine called Theranostics, where we build targeted treatments, say to a specific tumor, a prostate tumor or a lymphoma, and where we diagnostically we put a radionuclide on and look to see where the tumor is in the body, and then change out the radionuclide to a therapeutic radionuclide that causes damage to cells, and then can treat the patient with the therapy, targeted therapy. So it's up and coming. But the most common treatment we do is we treat patients that have thyroid cancer. That's the common cancer that we do treat with iodine, radioactive iodine.
Excellent, thank you, Debbie. We have a question from Sarah. Is there a good chance of getting into the program if you meet the basic requirements, or is it competitive and you need to go beyond the requirements?
That's a really good question. It is a competitive program. So, and we do use a rubric to rate people's GPA and whether or not they have any post-secondary education, whether they have a degree or not. However, saying that, that's only part of the ranking. We also use the Casper scores that were mentioned as well. So that's another part of the piece of the puzzle. So if someone can do really well in Casper and I may not have the same education as the next person, kind of thing. So it all depends, but it is definitely a competitive process.
Thank you, Debbie.
But Julie, can I just actually, I know Jesse mentioned our application deadline, and we're in the process actually of changing our application deadline from April 30th to May 31st. And that's going to be going up on our website very shortly. And the reason why we're changing it is because the Casper dates, if you go online into Casper, you'll see that we have the last date for Casper is March 2nd. And that's not really, we didn't feel like it was enough time or enough for people to do Casper, and especially with our application deadline being April 30th. So Casper has actually created a final Casper date of May 18th, which again is going to go up on our website. And this will allow people to do Casper by May 18th, and then the deadline of application will be May 31st. So they have to complete Casper on the May 18th, but they can still finish their application off by May 31st. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear. And that's going to be up on our website very, very shortly.
Okay, that's great, Debbie. We have another few questions. How much of the program will be online in person?
That's a really good question. So during COVID, we're mostly online. However, both first year and second years come to campus 1 day a week to do hands-on labs. So yeah, I showed a picture of the second year students. They're wearing full PPE and they're doing their labs. So we're still doing hands-on lab, but it is right now online, and that will definitely change toward more in person as we leave COVID behind us and there's a vaccine for all of us. But at the moment, yeah, the courses are mostly online. But up until then, before COVID, we had one online course. So it's just, yeah.
Jessie, for you, what are the rules for applying to multiple programs under the Health Science Department?
I answered this in the earlier session. The admissions department will only permit one active application at any time. So if you happen to decide to apply to a program that does not admit you, so they put you as a non-offer or you're incomplete in some way, you could then decide to reach out to the admissions department by emailing them, and there'll usually be contact information for that department on your communications, and request to see if you can transfer your application. So if you have a different program that you want to apply to that has a later application deadline or is non-competitive, so it doesn't have an application deadline, then you may have that opportunity to transfer that application.
Thanks, Jessie. Debbie, back to you. Is there a pediatric opportunity in nuclear medicine?
Yes, definitely. Our students actually spend 2 weeks at Children's Hospital in Vancouver working in the nuclear medicine department there. And once graduates can have opportunity to work at Children's Hospital. Now, it is a small department. They only have so many technologists that work in there, but there's a chance. And all students will have 2 weeks clinical experience at BC Children's Hospital.
We have quite a few specific questions. So I'm going to ask Darren, just pop in the advising link in there and the application webpage, because a lot of this information is already on our website. But there's one question from Sarah, which I think that we could address is, can you talk a little bit more about jobs and career opportunities?
Yeah, actually, and I actually need to see another one from Sarah about the high school, the straight out high school. Can I answer that one too? Sorry, Julie.
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll answer both questions. So Sarah asked another one about, do you have a chance of getting into the program straight out from high school? Yes. Every year we do usually accept one applicant that is from high school. They're a very strong high school student, and there is a chance to get in the program out from high school. Yes, definitely. And sorry, Julie, now I forgot your other question.
It was about career.
Oh yeah, yes.
Maybe.
So yeah, I guess the most like job opportunities. So most of our graduates will start working casual or on call for the first couple of years, but they'll almost get full-time hours because they'll have an opportunity to work at several hospitals at the same time. So they get called in for different hospitals, different times. And then after a couple of years, it depends. Some people get a permanent job right away, and other people, it takes a couple more years to get a job. As far as other opportunities, yeah, so I didn't talk about it in the presentation, but on my one slide, I showed where I had job opportunities, a kind of a picture. That's PET imaging, which is at the cancer clinic, and it's a branch of nuclear medicine. It's a little bit different instrumentation, but it's it's called positron emission tomography. It's a little bit different than regular nuclear medicine, but our graduates, our students again, work 2 weeks there and getting clinical experience. And though they've hired our graduates quite a bit over the past years, and there's been a new PET imaging opened in Victoria and one in Kelowna, which have hired people as well. So PET, there's been some job opportunities in PET recently. Yeah.
We have now a question about what do the clinical practice components consist of?
Oh, okay, good question. So you work, you have a choice to where you go for your clinical practicum. You get to choose 3 different sites, and we place our students in the Lower Mainland or in Vancouver Island, and you work full-time, so 35 hours a week, 7 hours per day in a hospital, being directly supervised by a technologist. And you start off just observing, but as soon as you get comfortable, able to do the skill, the technologist watches you and you perform the skill. We try to practice all their skills first of all at BCIT, so you're comfortable doing them in a safe environment before you go out to clinical. But then you're out there and you're working.
Excellent. That sounds fascinating, actually.
It is. It's very exciting. Very exciting.
I don't see anything else. I think Jesse's answered a lot of the specific questions. Oh, okay. Well, we have one more question. Would 2 departments at BCIT share the CASPER results? Let's say I have taken CASPER for another application and I didn't get into that program. Would I be able to use the CASPER that was forwarded to that department at first?
Yes. Yeah. The student has to tell CASPER to transfer their score from one program to the next. But yes, as long as the level of CASPER test is the same. So I believe like sonography, med-rad, radiation therapy, and nuclear medicine are all using the same level 2 CASPER, so they're all transferable. Yes.
I'll just comment on the CASPER. From my understanding, they would have to fall within the same application cycle. So
yes, yeah.
CASPER, I think, recommences their application cycle in early August. So just to be aware of that.
That is true. Yeah.
Excellent. I think that brings us to a close. We may have one more video to show everyone. I think, if I recall, it's on the next slide. There's Debbie's email. And we're all going to get a copy of the recording and a slide deck. So don't worry about taking notes or scrambling. You're going to get this information in your email at the end of the week. So let's show that video.
Here at BCIT, we have 32 programs in the School of Health Sciences. They range anywhere from specialty nursing, Bachelor of Nursing, diagnostics, lab, and allied health programs. We are very unique in that we have one of the largest simulation labs in Western Canada. So the learning model prior to the pivot to online learning, it was primarily learners coming on campus to get that foundational knowledge through lectures or group activities. And then they would still have their labs and the experiential learning aspect of it. What we're doing now is more of a blended approach so that instructors can put their lectures online and they can also put group activities online as well. They still need to come on campus to do some of those hands-on components, but we are seeing more of a blended approach. We've really worked hard to make sure that the students get the experience that they deserve, that it meets the learning outcomes and the competencies of the program. The only difference is that we've spread things out a little bit further, and sometimes their class sizes are a little bit smaller. But other than that, they're getting the same experiential learning opportunities as always. So we've heard our students say their experience of coming on campus for these simulation labs, they have felt very safe. We've even had students say that they feel safer coming onto campus than they do going into their own local grocery store. And I think that's due to all the organization, the time that we spent over the summer with occupational health and safety. We've marked the hallways with arrows indicating the direction so that we can control the flow, marking the floors so that they know exactly where they need to stand, and the scheduling too, so that we don't have all of the students on campus at the same time. They go to the specific bedside that they have been instructed to do so, and then the instructor is ready to start the simulation. In some cases, we actually have them in the back of the room, and using a technology called an ELMO, the instructor can be much further away and can actually do a demonstration for all students to see. They don't have to be right next to them. So if a student ever needs an instructor to step in closer to assist, then the instructor with the proper PPE steps in, does that assistance, and then steps away again. In many cases, faculty will be wearing PPE all day, and that's due to the frequent need to move close to the students to assist them in the lab. And then once the students have completed their simulation experience, then they immediately leave the campus and they can continue on their day. Some of the other unique methods that we've employed is that instead of the students actually coming on campus for a simulated experience, we've shipped some equipment to them. Now, it's just small pieces of equipment. They actually ran a home-based simulation using family members or people within their bubble, and then they shipped that equipment back to us. We have a highly interactive web-based virtual simulation program that we use, and the learners can interact with 3D avatar patients. And this, we found that it really reduces the amount of time that they come on campus because they hit the ground running when they come to the simulation lab. The students really enjoyed some of these activities that were really just supposed to be a temporary fix. They really want that to continue as part of the program. So we will continue to do that. We're all looking for creative solutions to continue the experiential learning opportunities that BCIT is known for. And so it's really exciting to see that not only in our programs in the School of Health Sciences, we see that collaboration, but we're seeing this collaboration across the entire campus. So it's an amazing thing to see and experience.
And that's it. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Debbie, for that excellent presentation. Thank you, Jesse, from Program Advising. Thanks, Erin and Darren from Marketing in the School of Health, and all of you for participating.